Trump wanted the photo. Europe wanted the breakthrough. Thousands of monks even prayed for it. But Putin just slammed the door shut. No meeting with Zelensky. Why? Because this wasn't just a handshake, it was the handshake. History has shown that a single image can reshape global politics. Think of Reagan and Gorbachev smiling in Geneva, signaling the Cold War's thaw. Or Trump and Kim Jong-un stepping into the DMZ. One photo shifted the perception of nuclear tensions. If this meeting had happened, it would have been historic. Two men who've both accused each other of plots against their lives, finally in the same room. For Ukraine, it was survival. For Trump, maybe even a Nobel Prize moment. For Europe, a ceasefire hope before another harsh winter. But now, Putin's rejection doesn't just block a summit. It reveals Russia's true strategy. And once you see it, you'll understand why Moscow never wanted that photo. If you want to keep uncovering the strategies world leaders don't want you to see, make sure you hit subscribe.
The 6 hidden reasons. 1. The Veto Trap. Imagine this, you're Ukraine. You sign a deal for Western security guarantees. Finally, protection against invasion. But then, Russia demands the right to veto every guarantee. If Moscow doesn't like a US patrol or NATO radar in Ukraine, they shut it down. It's like installing a lock on your door, then handing the burglar the spare key. For Kyiv, this was worse than no deal. It meant institutionalized weakness, dressed up as peace. 2. The Legitimacy Trap. To Russia, Zelensky is already expired. Moscow insists Ukraine's wartime election freeze makes his presidency illegitimate. If Putin shook his hand on camera, that would explode Russia's propaganda line. Instead, rejecting the meeting allows Moscow to keep portraying Zelensky as temporary, unstable, even irrelevant, a leader whose handshake isn't worth a treaty. 3. The map that can't exist. Side by side, the demands cancel each other out. Russia wants Donetsk, Luhansk, Crimea recognized as Russian. Ukraine wants them all back. Moscow wants NATO out of the equation. Kyiv says NATO-style backing is the only guarantee of survival. One side says erase sanctions. The other says justice first. Put those lists on the same table, and it's not a peace map. It's two opposing blueprints for Europe's future. 4. Timing the battlefield. Peace talks aren't just about peace, they're about when. Right now, Russia's military is dug in. Ukraine is pleading for more Western weapons, and winter is coming. By rejecting talks, Moscow buys time. Time for arms factories to refill. Time for Western fatigue to grow. Delay itself becomes the weapon. 5. The optics. Even the stage matters. Putin meeting Zelensky, even for a photo, would signal equality. For Moscow, that's dangerous. It doesn't want a visual where Ukraine looks like an equal adversary. It wants Ukraine portrayed as a dependent client of the West. Rejecting the summit denies Kyiv that symbol. 6. The Trump factor. And hovering over all this is Trump. A handshake between Putin and Zelensky, brokered by him, would be a headline grabber, maybe even Nobel-worthy. Moscow has no interest in handing Trump that global victory. Refusing the summit wasn't just about Kyiv. It was about denying Washington a triumph too.
Russia's demands, a wall too high to climb. Why did Putin walk away? To understand that, we need to look at the demands Russia brings to the table, because they're less like requests and more like ultimatums. Territory. First, Moscow insists on holding the ground it has already claimed: Crimea, Donetsk, Luhansk. To Russia, these aren't bargaining chips, they're territorial gains and symbols of power. A NATO-free Ukraine. The Kremlin's second demand is even bigger: a neutral Ukraine. No NATO, no Western military bases, no American missiles even close to Russian borders. In Moscow's eyes, this is about survival, not preference. And the pressure. And finally, Russia wants relief. The sanctions that have cut into its banking system, restricted its technology, and dented its global reach, it wants them rolled back. Put those three demands together and you don't get diplomacy.
You get a list of demands structured to be impossible. It's almost as if Moscow designed terms that were impossible, so it could claim, see, Ukraine doesn't want peace. But on the other side, Kiev isn't coming empty-handed. It has its own red lines, drawn through sacrifice, not just in ink. Every inch counts. Ukraine insists that all its territory must be restored, from Kharkiv to Crimea. For Kiev, conceding land feels like conceding sovereignty. It's not negotiable. It's survival. Security that actually works. Ukraine has heard promises before, and it's still facing the conflict, so this time it wants guarantees with teeth, ironclad defense commitments, Western backing, and systems that make another invasion impossible. Justice and recognition, and then there's accountability. For Ukraine, this conflict is not just about borders, it's about justice, about making sure devastation isn't swept under the rug as just another conflict in Europe. Put Russia's demands side by side with Ukraine's red lines, and you don't see compromise. You see two immovable walls facing each other. Maybe that's why Putin never agreed to sit down, because the table itself would have shattered.
Trump's Nobel gamble. And hovering over all of this, Trump. He wanted the summit as his ticket to the Nobel Peace Prize. Even thousands of Cambodian monks wrote to support his nomination. But here's the twist. By rejecting the meeting, Putin may have also blocked Trump's chance at recognition. Because if there's no breakthrough, there's no prize, no handshake moment, no legacy-defining peace deal. And if Trump can't deliver peace, even with global voices rallying behind him, does Putin believe he can outlast everyone instead? Which brings us to the darker truth. Maybe Russia never wanted peace at all. Maybe the rejection itself is the strategy of delay. Here's the play most people miss. Time itself is Putin's weapon. By rejecting the meeting, he gains months. Months to rebuild weapons, months to test Ukraine's patience, months to wait for political cracks in Europe and the US. It's a tactic Moscow has used before. In 2014, after seizing Crimea, Russia stalled talks until Western outrage cooled, and by then the annexation was irreversible. In Syria, Russia delayed ceasefires, using time to shift battle lines while diplomats kept arguing. Now the same playbook returns. Every delay drains Ukraine's economy. Every delay pressures Western governments to focus on domestic issues. Every delay risks making the conflict feel permanent. And in geopolitics, permanent can be just as dangerous. Putin didn't reject peace because he fears it. He rejected it because he profits from the waiting game. The propaganda play.
And there's another hidden reason. By walking away, Putin controls the story. Russian media spins Zelensky as desperate, begging for talks and ignored. Western media paints Putin as the obstacle, cementing his role as the antagonist in Western narratives. And in both narratives, Putin still wins, because he controls when the next chapter begins. By rejecting the handshake, Putin ensured he owns the spotlight, without giving his rival even a photo op victory. So what now? Without a summit, events on the ground decide the story. Ukraine doubles down on Western support, Russia digs deeper into occupied territories. Trump, he's stuck between his Nobel ambitions and a conflict that refuses to end. And that's why Putin rejected the meeting. Because peace wasn't the point. Power was. Control was. And in a conflict like this, sometimes no deal is the deal. So let me leave you with this. Did Putin slam the door because he's waiting for the perfect deal, or because peace was never really on the table? If Ukraine refuses to surrender even a single inch, are we looking at a conflict that could drag on for decades? Or will a breaking point force a resolution sooner than anyone expects? And here's the question that matters most. Was this rejection a blunder that will haunt Moscow, or a cold calculation that might just reshape Europe's future? If this left you thinking, don't keep it to yourself. Share this video, because the more people who understand the game being played, the harder it becomes for power to play us. And if you want more deep dives into defense technology, military strategy, and the megaprojects driving global power,
hit subscribe now, because what comes next will change the way you see the world. And before we close, I want to thank you, truly, for giving me your time. You could have spent these minutes anywhere else, but you chose to be here, with me, digging into a story that matters. From the bottom of my heart, thank you.